Imagine you have to flee a genocide, survive island prisons for 4 years, and travel 6 countries without any proper documentation before you become a student.
Jaivet Ealom is the only person to have ever escaped from Manus Island, a story that sounds like it's straight out of Hollywood. In 2013, Jaivet fled his homeland of Myanmar, travelling to Jakarta before boarding a boat with other asylum seekers bound for Australia. Instead of receiving refuge, he was sent to Christmas Island before being moved to the infamous Manus Island detention centre, which he compares to a horror movie.
I can't even count. There were several times I thought, there's no way I'm going to make it out. But yet, here I am.
I had to escape or die trying. I spent my waking hours studying how the prison operated in microscopic details.
So it is a plan that was in the making for about a year or so, probably more than a year. And the way I reverse engineered is because from all the people who have failed and then who have got caught, what I learned is they always plan forward. And so I started with my end goal in mind and reverse plan it. In a detention like Manus Island, the information asymmetry is really big, really huge. Like I often compare it to panopticon, like we see nothing, but every movement of ours was monitored, known, scheduled, and sometimes even calculated to make the most out of the misery. So in that information void, getting to know how the whole prisons, how the system works is difficult in a way that you have nowhere to dig into, you have nowhere to look into. All you have is your 2 eyes. So what I did was I started to plot the guard schedules, for example. If one guard come at 8 a.m. in the morning, the other say 8:05, 7:55, leaving a little bit of margin of error. When I plotted like over months, I have a reliable data set with a little bit of room for error. The prison was on an island with nothing about 300 kilometers surrounding it. So it is like a tiny dot in the middle of nowhere. On the island, there is a naval base. Inside that naval base is the prison. There is 2 planes per week. Both cater to the detentions only. So there is no way I'm getting on the plane with people from the detentions. And then I figured out the guards flew one day on one plane separately, and all other combined medicals, interpreters, catering peoples fly on another day. And I managed to get on the interpreter's plane.
Once off Manus, I bounced from one island to another for the next 6 months, just one step ahead of the authorities. To get out of the region, I needed a passport, and I made every effort to get one. Once again, I could only succeed with help from a stranger. I went on to take planes, boats, taxis across 6 different countries until I finally found a place of refuge.
Canada was the only country at the time I could get an electronic visa without a personal interview. And also, it's happened that the Solomon Island Solomon Island is also a Commonwealth country. And then there is certain visa arrangement with much of a relaxed rules for visa among the Commonwealth country. Finally, thanks to the colonial rules. So when I first landed on that Christmas Eve, I was mentally and physically prepared to go through interrogations, and then I was very hungry, like hungry in the sense that my stomach got filled up with acid and I can barely stand straight. And the immigration officer said, the kitchen is closed, but he went out of his way to buy me a sandwich. He said, like, I can't interview someone who is hungry in front of me. This kindness came from the person from uniforms. Until that point, to me, uniforms equal oppressions, uniform equals guard. And then like this was coming from a uniform.
After years of associating uniforms with brutality, I was dumbfounded. Here's a stranger who chose humanity over his duty. Now, circle back with me. It is Christmas Eve, and you are the immigration officer. What would you do?
What I've learned with this big, huge organizations, government, state, and the system in general, even the systems like UN body for refugees doesn't serve the refugees anymore. It was a system designed hastily aftermath of the World War II that doesn't reflect the reality of today anymore. So if a body, a system that was designed to help these refugees doesn't serve them well, you can only imagine how all the other systems that were designed to oppress it will act. So I think the world is it's pretty hard if you're born holding the shorter end of the stick. Sometimes the tiniest act of kindness and generosity without actually knowing the other person fully could change another person's life.